and welcome. Welcome to the Blessed Podcast, where we join Jesus where he is already at work, where we live, learn, work, and play. At Love KC, we believe that every person should hear the good news of Jesus from a friend. If that's going to happen, it will take all of us. The letters BLESS in the Blessed Podcast stand for begin with prayer, listen to God and to those around you, eat together, serve, and share. Share your story and share his story. As always, we have free resources to help you live on mission at our website, lovekc.net, and there you can find upcoming events. We interview a wide range of people on the Blessed Podcast, well-known authors, speakers, and leaders, plus everyday people, because we want you to meet those you might not get to meet on your own, and we want you to be able to identify with someone a lot like you. Our podcasts drop the 15th and 30th of the month. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe and share. Now let's jump into this episode of the Blessed Podcast with your host, Gary Kendall, and co-host, Samantha Lane Krebs.
Well, welcome to the Blessed Podcast, where we join Jesus where he's already at work, where we live, learn, work, and play. And if you're just joining for the first time today, I encourage you to like and to subscribe so you can get the future ones that come out. If you're wondering where you can find the Blessed Podcast, you can find it on iTunes, you can find it on Google Play, you can find it at the Love KC Living on Mission Facebook group. All of them are archived there. There's also a YouTube channel for Love KC Living on Mission. And we would love for you to be able to be inspired by the guest like Ray Jarrett that we have today. So Ray, welcome to the Blessed Podcast.
Hey, thank you. Good to be here there, Gary.
So Ray is the director for Unite KC, and now Love KC is merged with Unite KC. So we're working together, and I'm excited about that. We'll talk more about that in this podcast. But for those of you who are joining in, you may wonder, well, what is the podcast about? Why do we do this on a every other week basis? And we do it so that the listeners can be able to hear stories that inspire them, so that you would be able to think about your own life and the things that are actively working around you, how the pieces of the puzzle fit. And you can be making decisions where you can live on mission and take the gifts that God has given to you, take the human experience you've had over time, and you can begin to serve in ways that both fulfill God's purpose and lead you into a life that's thriving. And where we want to see you flourish. And so that's why we do this podcast. We encourage you to share it with others. And so let's dive in. Well, who is Ray Jarrett? Tell us about Ray Jarrett. We'd love to learn more.
Well, Ray Jarrett, I'll give you the pat answer, is a humble servant of the Lord Jesus Christ. But no, there's a lot more. I like to think of myself as a person who cares about people and who loves connecting people. I will be speaking at an event this weekend, and I remember being in Christian school and finding a verse that basically was a promise of God that says, if you love people and invest in people, that I'll love and invest in you. So I'm born and raised in Kansas City. Spent some time in the United States Air Force, worked for several different corporations, and now I have the privilege of seeing how all that fit together to where I could help lead an organization that is dedicated to racial healing and harmony here in Kansas City.
Isn't it beautiful how God does weave it all together?
Yeah, because, along the journey, there's bumps and bruises and things that you got to get through. And you're going, Lord, why in the world are you letting me go through this? And then in the end, you go, I get it now. So
the dots get connected, don't they?
There you go.
Tell us a little more about Lorna, your wife, and the role that she plays.
Oh my goodness. So there is, I tell Lorna all the time, I tell people, I said, if I couldn't be me, and I'm very happy being me, and who God made me, I'd be Lorna, because she has for one, she's got a fantastic husband, right? I hope she's not watching this podcast anyway.
I can just see the look on her face right now.
No, but Lauren and I have been married for 36 years now. We met, and we one of the things my wife is proud of, and I am too, is that, man, we've been through everything. We've seen everything. We've had all the arguments. We've eaten all the good foods and the bad foods. I mean, so it's been a great relationship. She is so driven, and she is so passionate about helping people. I believe her gift is healing, and she uses both the ability to understand what is going on with people's bodies, and she just recently got a doctor's degree. And so she can help people instantly. I've heard people basically just say, your wife is an angel. I don't know. I've been going to doctors and therapists for years, and she gave me an exercise, and I feel better already. So awesome. It's just truly a gift that she has, and a passion for people. She helps immeasurably. She's a leader at Unite KC. And she's, if we have an event, you'll see Lorna there helping somewhere. So
she's amazing.
Yes.
You guys complement each other in wonderful ways.
Well, thank you.
I think there's a lot of people, Ray, who have heard of Unite KC, but they may not know the origin story. I think it'd be great if you take a few minutes here and tell what was the catalyst behind the creation of Unite KC?
Oh, that's a fun story to tell. Well, Gary, years and years ago, and I have to ever tell just like a couple of cents of backstory with a lot of the people who are either on the board or who are in leadership positions or who are normal volunteers or donors for Unite KC. We've been in these conversations about race and how they affect our city and different things for years. And then, my wife dances at in the underground play that is held every year at the Kaufman. And that is certainly a huge catalyst for unity.
Yes, it is.
And a lot of things. And then there's the pastor served breakfast. So these are like little circles that I've been running around for years. And then the George Floyd murder happened. Okay. And terrible thing. But Dayton Moore, who is the president of the board of directors at Unite KC, called Jimmy Dodd and some other leaders in the city and said, hey, what can we do more to help advance this idea that, everybody we should have not only equality and justice, but we should have harmony. Like, why are people not getting along? Not building relationships. Right. And so in the wake of that, Jimmy and Dayton and all the other leaders, John Brooks, they just started calling people and inviting them to a meeting on what can we do, what more can do. And out of that, Unite KC was birthed. They had some really smart people tell them, we should create a nonprofit organization. And Gary, that's what happened. So this is an instance where the vision and the board of directors was in place before the executive director. So they came and got me out of retirement, I guess is what I want to call it. But that's actually how things got started. It was just a snowball effect. Oh. And then kind of an amazing thing of God's blessing is that we were really just getting started when COVID hit. So for us to have enough momentum to get through that whole thing, right, and still grow as an organization was truly a miracle. So
that is amazing all by itself.
Yeah.
So often we see the tragedies, like we've seen them around race happen, every few years throughout our whole history. Mm-hmm. And then daily there's the challenges, but there are these big kind of mile marker things that happen in our history of our country. That was certainly one of them.
Yes, sir.
To see God take something that was terrible and use it as something that's good is the redeeming way that God works in history. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, it was something else because we really had a lot of momentum in meetings, and we would meet once a month down at the Urban Youth Academy. We were starting to form these domains where people could find common ground and serve and help solve problems. For instance, a domain may be business, it may be government, it could be sports. And so those are different vertical markets where people serve, and they know what the issues are in those areas and in those spaces. Our church and family domain is one of the most busy and active ones. And you've been helping out there, Gary, and I guess we'll get to that in a little bit. But again, it was so powerful that even using Zoom and masks and everything else, we were able to keep going through COVID.
I always think that when I talk to churches or not-for-profits, even businesses, that how people handled COVID, it was a critical evidence of whether they were going to make it or not post-COVID.
Boy.
You guys handled it well, so I'm glad.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk a little more about the domains, Ray, because one of the things that's been attractive to me when I think about Unite KC is that I think it's honestly brilliant that this message has these domains where it can be delivered. Because for a message to live, somehow it has to become a part of the fabric of a culture if it's going to continue to exist over, through the years. And it can't just be a program, can't just be an event, can't even be just some talking points, but somehow it has to actually be embedded into something that's alive and moving. And putting it into these different domains, which takes it eventually through the whole culture, is really a brilliant idea. And so maybe talk a little bit about one of the domains. Just why don't you pick the arts for a moment, because you've already brought up Culture House. So how does Culture House and the underground, how does that carry this message forward in ways that maybe you couldn't if you were just trying to write about it in a textbook for education?
Yeah, that's awesome. The domains were set up because as you hear the overarching message for the Unite KC, the first thing that comes to your mind, well, how can I get involved? And so let's say you're a person like we talked about in the arts. Well, if you are in the arts, you know several things that I would not maybe have initially known. And one of them is like the impact and the importance of the Underground Railroad story, which is told through dance every year at the Culture House down at the Kauffman Stadium. Not the stadium, but the Kauffman Center for Performing Arts. And so people from all walks of life go to see that over the weekend. I think there's two main shows, and then all these school shows that help educate the kids about the importance of knowing and seeing that people can work together for good, for families, to help survive and things like that. And so you've got that piece, but I soon learned, having meetings with the arts folks, that there's such a thing as an arts desert. And so that may be places in the city where there are no places for art. There are no houses to go visit. There are no different programs for kids and for minorities or whatever. And so they took those two initiatives and said, these are our two main things that we're going to work on to help support the idea of unity, harmony, and justice in Kansas City.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I just met with Portia Seals, who is a leader in the education domain. Mm-hmm. And we were talking through some of her goals with Caring for Kids next year. And she was sharing about the mentoring gap that exists, where you have 400 mostly under-resourced students who need a mentor. And this idea of the need for racial harmony, racial justice, racial unity and equity like you can carry that right into the school system in the education domain.
Yeah.
And you can say, hey, this is not just a platitude that we believe or ascribe to mentally, but one of the ways we actually carry it out is in the domain where we go and help a child learn to read or help them learn to be able to do math or something else that will basically give an opportunity for helping that child to have a mentor. And then in a mentoring relationship, you can talk about the importance of race and culture and ethnicity, and even talk about how that, we may find ourselves looking different, but inside, we all carry the image of God. So it gives leaders, it gives people who believe in this message a chance through the arts or through education or through business or through city government, et cetera, a way to actually walk this message out. So I think it's a great idea. Is that your idea, Ray?
No, they pulled that one. They pulled that one off. I tweaked it a little bit, but it was already in place. And as a matter of fact, it was one of the reasons that I decided to join, because when they presented me with the opportunity, they gave me this big, thick document called our Covenant of Reconciliation, and it explained the domain-based system. And I read it over the weekend. I said, this could actually work. I mean, This is a great idea. So
that's really good. For listeners who are joining in, they may just now be hearing about the merger between Love KC and Unite KC. I'll talk about it from my perspective in just a second, but I'd love to hear from your perspective why you think this is a good thing and how we can work together in the city.
So Gary, I've thought this in the back of my head for a little while. I probably should have told you that, but the first thing that I really admired about you and the organization Love KC was the fact that you were so focused on human flourishing. And human flourishing is really, you could take some of the elements of human flourishing and lay them right over the top of Unite KC's vision and mission. Right. And you guys were always working really hard to carry that out. And it was a faith-based initiative, which we are a faith-based organization as well. So through the years, as we've supported each other, we've actually had to purposely not step on your toes, using your same language or coming up with ideas and events in our different domains that basically conflicted or were basically sitting right next to, juxtaposed to what you guys were doing. So I would tell people, instead of us trying to come up with this sounds a lot like what Love KC's doing. Let's just go support their, organization, support their initiative, support their event. And then we would always see you all and the Love KC folks at our events and things like that. So it just made a whole lot of sense for us to expand what has become probably our most important domain as far as, and I have no problem saying that, but the church and family domain has a wide influence across the city, because if at a church, you're going to get a chance to speak to 300-400 people a week, and so if they are hearing things or knowing about initiatives in their own specific domain, then they are likely to engage and you can spread the word a whole lot faster. So that really is the nexus of why I feel like there was a natural fit between our two organizations.
Yeah, I believe there is, Ray. And when we started thinking and praying about this, it wasn't a long time of wondering.
Right.
I started praying almost immediately. I just felt like God was giving us the green light. And when I started to reflect on why that might be, there was just so many reasons that jumped up in my mind. One of the ones that was the first, and it's continued to be a reminder throughout these next couple months. We're two months into it or so.
Yes.
That we can take the message of Unite KC everywhere we go with the things we already do. So Love KC has been very focused on the two great commandments, primarily helping people to love God with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength. And out of that, they live a contagious Christian life, and then to love their neighbor as they love themselves. And so we've made loving God, loving your neighbor the priority for Love KC. The love God part often plays out in the way we mobilize prayer in the city and in the different regions of the city. And the love your neighbor part really shows up great in the idea of adopting your neighborhood and living on mission there. And when you think about it, what those two vehicles do, in a sense, is it gives you an ability to both pray about racial unity, equity, and justice, and it gives you a way to go live it out with your brother and brothers and sisters. And so that's what we've been doing. Like the things we've already been doing in Love KC, we can take this message everywhere we go, whether we're doing a prayer connect in one of the regions or whether we're doing teaching people how to love their neighbors and use the blessed rhythms. Like you can work this idea of racial equity, love, harmony into everything we do, and that's probably right where it belongs. So it made just perfect sense to me. And then the fact that you have the domains and you're organized around domains, and Love KC can fit right into the church and family domain. I mean, it's like a piece of pizza pie, and we're one of those slices that fits into the other pieces. So
you're so spot on, and even we realized through some of the studies we've read that the church has gotten a bad eye, a black eye, and a stain on it because they feel like the church is probably one of the most racially divisive places that you can go. And true enough, I mean, Sunday mornings, somebody had basically said that that's the most segregated hour of the country on Sunday.
Yeah.
So we really felt like that our message could be carried out really well in the church space, and you guys at Love KC, which is now Unite KC, that was your wheelhouse. I mean, that's where you live. So.
Yeah, well, I think that Unite KC's done a really good job, Ray, in reaching people from the different domains or sectors of our culture. So you have actually more people who work in, say, business, than we've attracted on our side. We want to attract them, but you actually have. and we've really done well recruiting churches and pastors and ministries. And so we're actually better, probably come pretty close to doubling our audience.
Yes, sir. So it's exciting. I mean, these are exciting times. I mean, and that because we've had these conversations and we've got some plans and strategies and we just believe that the Lord is in this. And so I'm so excited to see, even before the year ends, what we're able to accomplish as one organization.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think about how this idea of God bringing people together, I mean, it's the essence of the gospel. You take the Old Testament, the 613 commands that Jews were to follow were narrowed down into 10 commandments. Mm-hmm. Jesus summarized them into 2, love God and love your neighbor. But then before he left, he said, there's a new commandment I'm giving to you, love one another as I have loved you. So at the bottom line of everything is loving others. And that means you're loving, across socioeconomic differences, you're loving across potential language difference, you're loving across different colors against these different ethnicities and cultures. Like love covers all of that, and we should be about love. So I think it's an important message for all time. We've been talking recently about even this fall, Ray, with the political situation like it is, and the recent unfortunate shooting that took place. And, it just seems to never end. The need for us to continue to be vigilant and continue to raise our voices and contend and advocate for love is just never ending.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You and I talked about this. Sonia Massey was shot and killed, and she was calling for help. And then you brought out the fact that one of the first things she said when she answered the door was, "Please don't hurt me," you know. And so you see that kind of thing, and you realize that there isn't anything you can do to legislate morality and to legislate love and loving one another. It has to be done from inside your heart. And we as an organization have to really push forward with ideas and meetings and forums where we talk, and that over time that heart change can take place. So you don't have to tell somebody that it's not right for you to shoot as an armed police officer, somebody who's innocent and doesn't have a weapon, and who happens to be Black. And so, it's not that those incidents don't happen with other people, but they get magnified, and we find out the condition of the heart is not where it's supposed to be. So,
and I love the way that you talk about it. I've heard you say this. I've heard Dayton Moore say it too, that it's not about black and white. It's about good and evil.
That's right.
Right or wrong. And we're contending for right. We're contending for good, and that's what we contend for. We're not contending against individuals. We're contending against it's a principality and power from the enemy that
absolutely
blinds the people. All of us have been blinded into ways of acting and reacting that usually come with self-protection or with fear or other things. And so if we can get underneath, well, what is it that makes a person fear, or what is it that makes a person freeze, or what makes a person be silent, and begin to help them experience love that goes beyond what they've experienced in the past, then there's a real chance. And I think there's a lot of work for us to do, but I think it's good work and the kind of work that we ought to be continually pursuing.
Well, Gary, it just warmed my heart and brought back fond memories. You quoted a verse that at our family, when I was growing up, we said every single day as part of grace before we ate. And it was a new commandment I give unto you. We love one another as I loved you, that you also love one another. So, yeah, that's probably the first verse I ever memorized besides Jesus wept. So,
I like the short ones too. When I was a kid and we had Bible club and had to memorize scriptures, Jesus wept was my go-to.
Yeah.
I would love for you to tell a little bit about how that we work together with the Barnabas Group and with Pastor Serve after the shooting. So after the shooting, there were 4 of us that very first day after who started working and spent a good part of that day in communication all day long, kind of forming a plan. And then we've been working that plan since that day, even right up until today, to talk about how do we do things differently in 3 months and 3 years and 30 years, so that Kansas City can learn from a tragedy like that and make improvements that are sustainable. So tell a little bit of that story. I think it's a great story.
So Gary, I got to tell you, I'm smiling, but in the wake of that tragedy, the 2 weeks that followed were probably the most productive and impactful weeks that I can remember in recent history. So, I'm at a friend's house watching a little bit of the Chiefs parade, and I get home and I'm watching it, and then the unthinkable happens. Right. And so I'm watching newsreels for the rest of the day, just praying and, Lord, what can I do? And my phone is remarkably silent during the rest of the day. So I wake up and I get here at my office, and then my phone goes crazy. And you were one of the people that made it go crazy, Gary, because we have good relationships. That is one of the things I'm so proud of. It's one of the richest points of my life is the relationships. And you're one of those people. And so I got a call from you. I got a call from George at Barnabas Group. I got a call from Jimmy Dodd at Pastor Serve. And I got calls and texts from, dozens more people just before 9 o'clock,
right.
Where we're trying to formulate a plan of what to do. And so, you had some contacts, and we got a website up in a couple of days. It was crazy.
One day.
And we started raising money. What we wanted to do is we've been through some of these tragedies before, where it's gotten national attention. And when people want to help and they want to give, because they know that there's a need with people who have been injured, wounded, shot, and even ongoing needs such as physical therapy and mental counseling and stuff like that. And so they typically can give to some of these larger organizations that are skilled in giving out money, but it takes time. Right. And when you have a need, your need can't wait 2 or 3 or 4 months. And so we wanted Kansas City to hear more from the church than just you're in our thoughts and prayers. And so we started doing frequently asked questions. You and I went on the campaign trail like we were running for office. We both do a lot of media stuff, but we were certainly in the news, and they picked us because we weren't pastors and we didn't want it to seem like we had an agenda, So all these people, Gary, an outpouring of funds, they gave into our fund because we got a fund set up at National Christian Foundation right away. So all of these things happened in about 2 weeks. Right. And we'd raised over $150,000. I think you've got the exact numbers on that. But it just turned out to be such a blessing to be involved in what can be only viewed as one of the most significant restorative things that anybody's ever done here in Kansas City to help families and to help people who had lost their jobs and that needed counseling. It's just been, and you've been kind of at the forefront of all that. I did a lot of going to prayer vigils and speaking, and so did you, but you've actually been instrumental in helping to pass that money out. And so, I know that we're talking to me, but Gary, that's got to be a huge blessing to be God's hands and feet extended in this kind of a thing.
Well, it takes everybody to do it. I think that if George didn't jump in, if Ray Jarrett didn't jump in, if Jimmy didn't jump in, we wouldn't be where we are. But I saw you, Ray, when you had such an important role in our For Kansas City meeting, when you were kind of actually leading the morning sessions there, and then getting the letters out and getting the surveys back out to people. And you were busy doing that. George was scheduling rooms and putting things on the calendar, and Jimmy was paying for bills.
Right.
And I felt like, hey, love KC, a natural thing for us to do. It's in the first word of our name is love. We can help. We can take the lead in helping these people. So we've helped 9 families so far. Just found another one this week that we need to help. But 17 individuals. So there was 21 people that were either shot or one person, Lisa Lopez Galvin, lost her life tragically on that day. And to think we've been able to help half of them or more is really amazing. This is a historic day in the life of Kansas City, tragically historic. Mm-hmm. And in the aftermath of that, while people waited and waited and waited for the KC Strong United Way funds, the Church Loves Kansas City, the fund that we started, was actually out there helping people right away within weeks.
Yes.
Continued to help until the larger checks came in. So I'm very grateful for the role we've played. There were times where we helped a person to be able to save their job and save their apartment, and we helped with all kinds of things. And you've already named a bunch of them, but I'm looking forward to the day when the people that we've helped have the willingness to come forward and share, how God used this in their lives. They've shared these things privately, but it was such a traumatic event. Most of them don't want any more press. Like they don't want to be interviewed. They don't want to be in front of people. They're still trying to, move past the traumatizing events of the day. And a million people trying to flee at the same time. And, there was lots of people who were or trampled in that. So we've been providing counseling and just a whole number of different things. One of the stories that's my favorite to tell is that, and this is a sad but true story. The part that's my favorite is the way that they're getting help now is that several of the Spanish-speaking only families didn't know about Casey Strong or didn't know how to apply for the United Way, and so they didn't get help. And only later now are they applying, but we've been able to find them and provide counselors who speak Spanish and getting them connected and plugged in. We're helping to pay for ambulance bills and hospital bills, other kinds of things where the help sort of missed them and might have completely missed them.
Yes.
For good if we didn't find them, but we did. And it's interesting how that there's I won't say her name, but there's a reporter that's fairly well known and has covered this story in a very complete way. And she found out that she kept learning that she interviewed people, they kept saying, well, the church loves Kansas City and love KC and, for Kansas City, like they're helping us. And Gary Kendall is, and so finally she contacted me and said, who are you? And what are you guys doing? So we met at Messenger Coffee on Grand and spent an hour just kind of sharing notes back and forth. And we've actually been in regular conversation since that day because she was able to find some people we couldn't find. And then she would tell us about our fund because they didn't know about it. And then we would be in contact with them. So it's really been a story of the city coming together in some beautiful ways. And I'm quite excited about the possibility in the future of working even more closely with city government, ministries that already are boots on the ground to contend for peace in our neighborhoods, people who are doing mentoring with churches, with networks to serve our city in a more united way. And we have the right name, Unite KC.
That's right. That's right.
The future is going to look different because of the good work that we've done. Well, Ray, as we get close to the end here, is there anything that you would want people to know that we haven't covered so far? Or would you like to tell people how they could get involved and be a part of what's coming next?
Well, Gary, a little bit of both. I mean, I really want, we had a meeting with some of our internal volunteers, and I just want to stress the importance of our mission, which is racial healing, racial reconciliation, and racial harmony. And we achieve that through relationships, through talking with one another, through educating ourselves about our shared past. And those things, we just create events and we create opportunities for people to talk. And when they do, man, that's really where the heart change comes in. And we still need, like you mentioned, we need it more than ever because we see evidence that everybody is not getting a chance to have those kinds of interactions that change their heart. And they're stuck with misconceptions and fear. And in some cases, when they have the upper hand, they react violently towards people that that could be their best friend. So the need to continue the mission is real. And once you get involved, we will show you ways where you can volunteer alongside of like-minded people. You can donate. You can do all kinds of things that get you involved in what we're trying to do here. And then I just want to let people know that the future is bright for our city. We're engaged in so many wonderful things, human flourishing projects and different things that basically are going to, you'll see, really help transform lives in our city, because love truly is the way. It really is. And that's, and for those of us who are a part of the faith community, it's a mandate for us. We have to fight and we have to constantly remind ourselves of ways to love people better and to create situations where people feel welcome and they feel like that they want to be a part of a community that is what I believe Dr. King called a beloved city. So
Yes. Tell about the second Saturday, because the next one is at Hope Center. And I just am a huge fan of Marvin Daniels and what he's doing down there at the Hope Center. And tell people how they can be a part of that.
yeah, so not that you prompted me to do this, but here's a flyer. It's called Second Saturday, and it does give you information about going to the Hope Center, which is there on Linwood Boulevard, 2800 East Linwood, I believe. And Second Saturday is a really cool thing. If you're interested in learning more about Unite KC, what we do, ways to volunteer, ways to get involved, you'll want to come to a Second Saturday event. The next one is going to be August 10th, and it starts at 10 o'clock. And we'll have special guest speakers. We've got people who are basically new, people we've kind of covenanted with, and it's just a great opportunity to meet new people. And it's fun. It's fun. I mean, you'll get some of the best coffee you've ever had. I think Gary's going to make donuts or something like that. But yeah, we will periodically announce about Second Saturday. So again, the next one is August 10th at the Hope Center. So
you go to unitekc.org, you can find all the details. We also have it on the Love KC Living on Mission page. And you can actually meet some of the leaders at the Hope Center. Meet Marvin Daniels and his wife Angie, just a beautiful couple, really dedicated to our city, servants who've been just giving their lives away for years. And our city's so much better because of them. So I hope that you can do that. As we wrap up today, just want to remind the people who are listening, we do this for you, that we tell stories and it might sound like we're talking about us, but our whole goal is that you would find ways and opportunity and means where you can jump in and be a part and make a difference, and you can be used of God to live on mission. I think all of us are called to be missionaries. Our mission field begins when we walk out our front door, and it starts with our neighbors. Then it moves to where we work, where we live and play. Everywhere we go, we become the bridge for God to reach out to people in a way that they might not be reached if we weren't living for him. We will often say this statement that we want everyone in Kansas City to come and know the good news of Jesus from a friend. So it takes all of us to reach this big city. Ray, thank you so much for sharing today about Unite KC. You're such a blessing to our city.
Thank you, Gary. Thanks for having me again. It's always great chatting with you.
Yeah. So as we wrap up today, I encourage you, if you didn't take the time to that you'd subscribe, that you share. And if this podcast has meant something good to you and you want to give it to someone, then you can find the link on the Love KC Living on Mission YouTube page. You can just share that link very easily. And let's keep the story going. Let's join Jesus where he's already at work. Thank you. Have a great day.
That's it for this episode of the Bless Podcast. We hope this podcast informed and encouraged you. Remember to subscribe on your favorite format, iTunes, Google Play, or YouTube. If you want to see the interview on Zoom, hop over to our Love KC Living on Mission Facebook group. Have a blessed day.